all set here. We've got the Heat, and we've got the Celtics, we've got the Mavs, and we've got the Golden State Warriors. But we're first going to hit on the two games that we saw on Sunday, Kirks, and we'll start with you. Are you more impressed with the Celtics and what they did on Sunday and the response after Game 5, or are you disappointed in Phoenix?
I've been a Celtics guy the entire season, entire postseason. I love that team, but I'm way more disappointed in the Suns. I think that the way you go out as the number one team in the league, 8 games better than the next best team, you have home court in a Game 7. Yes, the Mavericks, I believe, had the best player in the series. Sure. But I think overall, team-wise, I think the Suns were are a better team. But in this game, for some reason, in a home game, Game 7, Booker and Chris Paul are 0 for 11 in the first half. Ayton is playing no minutes. The Mavs have all the energy in the Suns building, which makes me it makes me
How
question.
Does that happen?
How does that happen? How, with the crowd going crazy and everything that is worth in this game matters, you come out flat as can be? And I don't mean, listen, a lot of teams come out flat, but then they pick up the energy. They came out flat, and the energy never rose above 2 out of 10. Their body language was terrible in the first half. Body language was even worse in the second half. And I was telling Mike Gargano today, actually, about the game. And the biggest moment for me in the game was when the Suns, I thought they were gaining a little bit of momentum, like the littlest bit. It was the second quarter, maybe like 4 minutes to go. They cut it to 45-27, 18-point game. Like, all right, finish this 3 minutes out. You can cut it to like 10, 11 before half. You got a shot. The Mavs go on a 12-0 run to end the half. And Luka had the same amount of points as them at halftime.
Yep.
The Suns were so used to taking wide open shots, getting whatever they wanted. Life was easy, but the Mavs came ready to play on defense, and Spencer Dinwiddie finally showed this postseason, I think this series at least, why that trade was well worth it. Him and Luka combined for 65.
Yep.
That's a winning formula most days of the week. So I'm definitely more disappointed in the Suns coming out laying 70. They're like main core players scored like 50, 60 points yesterday.
Yeah.
I hate to say that Luka was right, but I love Luka, but
he was
right when he said it's easy to act tough when you're up. And when that got to 3-3 and they blew them out in Dallas, and now they're going back home, pressure goes back to Phoenix. You're supposed to win this game.
Yep.
And Luka came out, and Luka has that cockiness, but the confidence. He's laughing as he makes shots. He's giving them the mean snark down the court. I love that kind of shit. He backs it up every time he steps on the court, so I can't blame him for acting that way. And the Mavs, man, I'm excited for this team.
Couple of things. I like what you said. I guess let's just do the Luka part, because this is a reminder of, and you know how much of a basketball purist I am. I believe in team basketball. I don't think you necessarily need a superstar, but this was a pretty bold reminder that if you have the best player in a series and they decide, or not decide, if they have that type of game and they come out and dominate. Now, it was a combination of Luka doing that and the Suns literally playing their worst game probably in 2 or 3 seasons. I mean, 2 or 3 seasons.
In the Chris Paul era, for sure. And even dating back to that, it might not have been that bad at any point.
But play well. I think this is also a testament to Jason Kidd as well. Like, Jason Kidd has completely revamped, I think his coaching career a little bit. Like, incredible. We were out on him. Like, he had a stint with the Bucks, right? We don't even remember that. Then he went to the Brooklyn Nets. But I think what he's been able to do with this team defensively, especially, I mean, that was one of the big things. We always bring up Luka Doncic and Trae Young, and the big question with those guys was defense and all that stuff. We saw that on display. We saw that in the first series with Dallas against Utah, and how great they were defensively. So, yes, Phoenix played horrible. Yes, it was their worst game, but it's kind of like the same thing with the Celtics and Bucks series, where it's like, oh man, like, Giannis, I've never seen him struggle like that. Okay, and we never saw Durant struggle like that too. So what is that more a testament of, the team or the player? And that's kind of what I come back to with the Dallas Mavericks. Spencer Dinwiddie, look, you're not going to get that again. I don't think.
No, probably not.
I don't think. But regardless, this is why you brought him in for a game like Sunday, and he was oozing confidence. And we will see if he can continue that play. They are going to need that against Golden State. But yeah, I think you hit it on the head, and I understand being more disappointed in the Suns. I'm going to go in the other direction.
Go for it.
I'm so impressed with how the Celtics responded, especially after that Game 5. Kirks, you know how hard it is to lose a game like that and then have to go into a locker room and say, shit, we need to win 2 in a row here. One of them at Pfizer Center. in Milwaukee against the defending champs. They go in there and beat them pretty soundly. I thought they deserved to win that game. And then you have to come back after that emotional high, and you go home and you beat Giannis and the Bucks again. Now, is it a different series with Middleton? I don't know, probably. But I'm not going to sit here and take that away from the Celtics. I'm more impressed with the Celtics, especially with the head coach. I've been so impressed with him the entire playoffs, which leads to a very interesting matchup with the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm going to lean with the Celtics as far as being more impressed, though.
Yeah, no, the Celtics, like you said, we hadn't seen this from Durant, and then he played the Celtics, and we saw what happened. And now he played against the Bucks. They played against the Bucks and Giannis, and we saw what happened. So at a point, it becomes that it is definitely a great team effort. They have a lot of dogs on that team, the Celtics. That's why I love the matchup. We'll talk about it in a little bit with East Conference Finals. But this is just a matchup of junkyard dogs.
Biggest loser from the Suns series, who would you say? Is it Chris Paul? Is it Devin Booker? Is it Monty? Who's the biggest loser from that series?
All right, I guess the biggest loser is probably Chris Paul. And I think it's because 17th season, we've seen this over and over.
Just turned 37.
Again. Just turned 37. The body isn't getting any better. It just fails him. He's hurt. Like we saw the reports, he was limping out of the press conference. And listen, I'm not taking anything away from the Mavericks with that saying that. I just think that Chris Paul now going to be entering year 18, being 37, turning 38.
Clock's ticking.
I sent a window emoji to one of my group chats saying, like, is the window closed? I think for Chris Paul and this team, if they don't make a massive change to, I don't want to say the roster, but I think they need to get different faces into that locker room. I know Jay Crowder just signed a 3-year deal after last season, so he's there again. They're going to return a lot of guys, but I do think that an infusion of a hungrier player who hasn't had as much success in the last couple of years team-wise could really do a boost to them. I also just want to say, Devin Booker, you got something to prove come next season.
Yes, you do. I don't want to hear the Kobe comparisons, Kirk. So I'm done with that.
Oh,
Stop
no,
with
listen,
that, please.
I think people always get a little bit ahead of themselves in the moment. Recency bias. He had a 40-point finals game from what I remember last. Did he have
something like that?
He had one or two really, really good games. And I know we as fans, we love to get into that recency bias and all that, but those comparisons need to stop. Let's maybe get him one ring before we start comparing him to one of the top 5 players of all time. But Devin Booker definitely needs to not let something like this happen again, because that last night, as you and we both mentioned, was pitiful.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Booker here because I think a combination of things happened. Okay, first of all, it's the Luka and him, right? Like you were on full display. I don't think anyone thought that Booker was better than Luka unless you're a full-fledged Booker supporter. But any sort of doubt, any sort of argument that you may have had for Devin Booker completely went out the window because you saw what the difference between a superstar is and an all-star. All-star. I'm not saying I truly believe, like, what has Devin Booker done without Chris Paul? Like, they go hand in hand, and that's fine. Like, you got to be able to have a guy like that. And Chris Paul is that guy. He'll win in the regular season and get guys to a different level. That's awesome. But this is more about Devin Booker to me, a guy that's trying to prove himself as a superstar that I like. I actually really do enjoy watching him play. I like his mentality. But there are some things that went on in this series as far as the flailing. Luka basically just saying, okay, like, you want to steal the ball or whatever he did at the end of the game. He walked out of there. Guys that actually walk the walk or walk the talk, that to me is so impressive. You know how old school I am. I don't like when people tell me something they're going to do before they do it. Luka did that, and I think really embarrassed Devin Booker. And then for him to have the game that he had in Game 7 and just kind of look lost, I don't know. I walk away from this. Chris Paul is what he is, right? Like, this doesn't change my thing on Chris Paul. Like, Chris Paul won a title. That's just like an added bonus to me.
Okay.
But no, it just is. It's just an added bonus. He is what he is. I mean, especially at this age, he's one of the best point guards of all time. I think when it's all said and done. Some people don't feel that way. That's perfectly fine. But this doesn't entirely change the legacy of Chris Paul. I think his thing is cemented. For Devin Booker, what's it going to look like now without Chris Paul and possibly DeAndre Ayton here next season? That's my thing.
Yeah, for sure. I just think that if they keep that core together, the three of them, Devin Booker needs to truly ascend as the best player on that team. Like, next season, he needs to be the number one. Like, the guy.
Let me look at his numbers real quick. I want to look at his numbers from this series. So 23 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. And just kind of running down the Suns splits for the playoffs. DeAndre Ayton, 17 points. Chris Paul, 17. Bridges, 13. It's just not enough. I mean, the scoring, I know that they went off balance, but it just felt like there wasn't enough offense from this team. And you saw it early on in that New Orleans series. We may have saw this coming from a little bit of a distance. We just didn't want to believe it. And then you kind of sprinkle in Luka coming into this series. And, you know, you've been going back even further. Like Dallas didn't have Luka for 2 games. Was it 2 games against Utah?
Yeah,
like that. When that news came out, they were like, "Oh man, Utah, they're going to the next round." This story's crazy to me. This whole Dallas story. So, just to kind of put a bow on it, this is a team that won 67 games. I just never felt sold on them. They did feel a little Atlanta Hawkey from a couple of years ago with the Al Horford and Kyle Korver team.
You were on earlier than most.
But because of the finals run last year, I think we all kind of sat there and said, well, if they did it last year, why can't they do it again? Yeah. And that's a good lesson that, man, you picking the teams that got there last year, to me, is such a cop-out, and it's not very intelligent because it's incredibly hard to get back there.
I woke up to a text today that said, the league will humble you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the league humbled the Suns last night in a big way. I do like those guys, so I think they're going to come back and be stronger next season. But yeah, tie a bow on that season for the Suns. All that regular season work for a second round
Nothing.
exit.
Isn't that crazy, man? You do all this crap, 82 games. You sit there with 67 wins. That's insanity. And you play how many games? You played. Did the Pelicans push them to 6?
Yeah, it's a 6.
So 13,
and then another 7.
13 games.
95 games, and they get bounced. Well.
Crazy.
All right, let's get on to it. What do we talk about next?
Yeah, we'll do Celtics Heat first. I just want to go through top 5 players in this series right now. I want to get your take first. I want you to name me the top 5 players in this series between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. And
how I would be drafting them, essentially?
Sure.
Okay. Best player in the series is Jason Tatum, in my opinion. The second best player is Jimmy Butler.
Okay.
So I believe that a top Bam Adebayo game is better for his team than a top Jaylen Brown. So I'm going to say Bam 3, Jaylen Brown 4, and then I guess
who's the kicker? Yeah.
So here's my thing: are we assuming Lowry is healthy?
No, because he's not going to play game 1. He didn't practice today.
And even if he's in the series, I don't even know how healthy he gets because the playoffs is hard under injury. So I'm not going to say Lowry.
Marcus Smart.
It's probably Marcus Smart. But I don't think that because the Celtics have 3 out of the 5 best guys in the series, that means, well, then they're going to win the series.
No, of course.
Of course not. But what I will say is that I said it before, this is going to be a battle of a bunch of guys who really want it. And I also believe the Celtics don't forget what happened in the bubble.
Yeah, right? No, that's definitely a storyline.
Definitely a storyline. We had the Bam block in the end of game 2, I believe that was, when he blocked Jason Tatum at the rim to win the game. That ended up being a huge game, a huge momentum swing in the series.
Best blocks ever.
But let's talk about what they are now. What they are now is this: the Celtics have proven that I believe that they are the best defensive team in the NBA currently, and remaining in the playoffs.
I agree with that.
They have taken 2 of the top players in the NBA and made them look human at many times, even though Giannis went for freaking 40 in game 5 or whatever it was. Throughout the series, he looked human. They made his life living hell. Jimmy Butler is a guy, though, that he's very good at making guys foul him. I don't think he takes...
And that's been a problem with Tatum lately.
Which is, yes, been a problem with Tatum. I assume they start Jaylen Brown on him. And then obviously with the way that their defense plays and they switch a lot on defense, you get a lot of cross matches. I just think that the Celtics need to play sound defense. They need to not leave their feet. They need to just play I think they just play the fundamentals of basketball on defense, and they've been able to do that so far. Let's see how the refs call the series. Will they let it be physical like they've kind of let the Celtics be with a lot of these other bigger stars? But like I said, Jimmy Butler has been an absolute dog this series. I think the health of Kyle Lowry is very important. I think he needs to be able to give them something at some point in the series. Even if that means it's 2-2 and Lowry has sat 4 games or 3 games and now he's getting his way back into it. I do think they need something from him. I know they gave Vincent and the Struce Juice that you texted me. They have been great contributors, and I love Gabe Vincent. I think it's a great story. He starts at point guard. He plays good minutes for them. He doesn't do anything that is out of character, out of role.
Stage within his game.
He takes only wide open shots, which I love when role players only take wide open shots. I just think it's going to be out to how good the role players play on the road.
I don't think it's more about worrying about the starters with Gabe Vincent because he's not going to close necessarily. It's probably going to be a hero lineup. But
yeah.
So real quick, going back to the top 5 list, I think it's interchangeable between the number one. Like, I truly believe, like, if I were to say Jimmy, I don't think a lot of people would complain, and I'm not going to sit here and complain about Tatum. I think that they're both pretty equal right now as far as where they're at right now. Let's see. So the top 5, I pretty much in agreement with. The 5th is just kind of a drop off to me. It's just it's more like, yeah, Smart's not, Horford's played really well, and then you can go to you can legitimately go to Max Strus as that 5th best guy. Kurtz, I'm dead serious, because he leads the league in plus minus. I mean, he's doing things that's pretty crazy, just from as far as a guy that was undrafted and didn't expect to. I mean, I expected him to play a decent role, but once they got to the playoffs back in October, I didn't think he was going to be getting big minutes, and now he's starting. So here's the thing about this series, I think. The coaching is definitely something that I think is going to play a big role in this. I think that if Eric Spoelstra is able, and he's been able to the last couple of days, to really formulate a game plan, because this is his thing. You give him some time. He's like Bill Belichick that way. Yeah. And you look at the depth of both of these teams, and I think a couple of weeks ago I was like, oh, the Heat have great depth, better depth than the Celtics. Now all of a sudden, like with Peyton Pritchard playing better, like let's just look at the Celtics numbers: Tatum, Brown, Smart, Horford, and Grant Williams had a great game. Not necessarily sure if I trust Derek White. I mean, we kind of saw he struggled on Sunday. The health of Robert Williams, and then I don't know if Daniel Tice knows, and then Peyton Pritchard, who again I don't know if he can play on the floor as well. Where is the Celtics depth as far as you go?
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm sure I'll pull up there. I think it's the top 5. I think when if Robert Williams is healthy, Robert Williams is a guy who needs to be playing in. I think the him versus Bam Adebayo matchup is going to be very interesting. It's 2 guys that are both very impactful for their teams, but at the same time, one's being paid a lot of money, one's being paid not as much money. So I'm just curious as to what are we really going to find out here? Like, is Bam really worth that money? Which I obviously believe he is, but I think that Grant Williams is going to do a good job trying to defend him. But like you said, Derek White, I'm not sure if I trust Derek White, especially shooting the 3 ball right now. Tice is a guy that you can bring in. He won't do anything like bad for you, but he's going to get beat defensively. Yep. He's an undersized 5. He will also shoot the open 3 if you give it to him.
I know he will.
The shot. That's not the shot the Celtics want him taking. I think the Celtics would look for a better shot rather than a Daniel Tice 3 on most occasions. So I really think this is going to be a series where they're playing 6, 7, 8 guys max. I don't think Pritchard sees the floor.
I don't even know the Celtics go 7 or 8, bro. I think that they probably go 7 max.
7 being Derek White is your 7th guy with Rob Williams as your 6th.
I don't think Pritchard has a spot in this series. I really don't. I don't think he's got a spot in this series.
He probably doesn't. And for the Heat, I think they still go as deep as you really kind of want them to go. Butler, Hero, Bam, Lowry. Oladipo's been pretty good in the playoffs. He's given them defensive versatility and scoring punches at times.
They'll play Dedmon in spurts.
I'm not sure how much I love that, but I don't think he's terrible. I don't know how much I want to play that, though. I think I consider going small before playing Dedmon, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they did that in Game 5 or Game 6 in the second half. Yeah.
I think you see a little bit more Caleb Martin, too, by the way, as you go through.
I'm honestly surprised we haven't seen more Caleb Martin. He shot the 3 ball in the regular season, and he's a long-rangey defender. I almost thought we'd see him in like a 10-minute-a-game role. He's not even seeing the floor, really. So
I think because of Depot. I think Depot has taken his minutes, too. So and then Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson's on the outskirts as well. So just from a depth perspective, man, I might be remiss.
I'm sorry. I didn't even mention PJ Tucker. We didn't even say PJ Tucker's name.
Oh, come on now. I mean, listen, he's always in my head.
No, I know, but I'm saying when I was listening to names, I didn't even list him. So you're 8-9 deep again. So listen, you said it before in the podcast way back when we were on IG Live. Depth matters, and honestly, I think due to injuries and guys being a little...
Have I not been spot on about that?
You have. The Heat. We'll go back to the first series where they won in Game 5 and they literally didn't have Butler or Lowry playing, and they won the game. So
it's crazy.
I think depth is crazy. I think that you have a slight coaching advantage. The experience matters, and Spoelstra's been in all the big moments before as a head coach. I like what you said about how he's Belichick in that way, that you give him time to prepare. It'll usually be good. The one thing I will say is I wasn't really that impressed with him in the Philly series at times. Kind of thought
Sure.
there were things he could have done a little differently at times. His lineups weren't great, but they fixed it when in game 5 and 6. So I'm not worried about Eric Spoelstra. I just think that let's not get into the and if we're like the experiment thing. If we're gonna experiment, let's experiment in game 1. Let's not experiment later in the series, even if you have a lead. I think this is a team that you cannot give things to, give easy opportunities to. So that's my only advice, I guess, for the Heat.
I've never been more convinced come game 5 it's going to be 2-2. Like I've never been. I don't know how it's going to happen. It could be it could be. It could be splitting. It could be Miami wins first game, Boston wins. I've never been more convinced in a series that game 5 is going to be 2-2 coming back to Miami. Like I don't know why. I think that these are two pretty similar teams. I think they're also different in ways, as in the Celtics, I feel like if it's not Tatum or Brown as your leading scorer, they're going to have a hard time winning. Whereas with the Heat, we have seen different guys lead the team in scoring and they win. I think they're both similar defensively in the sense that they can switch all 5. They're able to, if you get them in a half court, both of these teams, you're going to struggle to score. This is going to be an 85-85 type of game with 2 minutes left in the fourth. I think a lot of guys, a lot of people like that. So that's what you're going to get with this series. I think, and you can give me your 2 or your 1 wild card. I think this is going to come down to depth, which I think the Heat win, and coaching, which I also think the Heat win. I think that's what's going to come down to. What happens in between the lines and how they defend Jimmy Butler and what they do defensively to Boston if they make these other guys step up. I don't know if that necessarily is going to play a huge role. I just know when you go 7 games with the Bucks and you have a team in Miami that's rested the last couple of days, that stuff matters. And if they're able to go 8, 9, 10 deep like we talked about, I'd like the Heat again to get to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I do think that depth and coaching are going to matter in the series a lot. I do believe that the Miami Heat are the smart bet for game 1 due to what you just said. The Celtics just did a 12-round fight with
Heat are plus 145, by the way, for the series price. I just want to put that out there.
And I think that's kind of crazy for the simple fact of the Miami Heat have 4 home games in the Celtics. I know that the Celtics have obviously proved in the last 2 series that they're able to go on the road in hostile environments, and the role players have been able to play good enough to win these games. But one thing I will say is that the Milwaukee Bucks never changed their defense, and they haven't changed it in the Budenholzer era. They are going to let you shoot the 3, and if you are not one of the premier players on that team, they're going to let you shoot. I do not believe that the Miami Heat are going to just let Grant Williams shoot 17 wide open 3s.
No, they are going to probably say let these other guys beat you, though. Let Marcus Smart shoot out of a game.
See, now there's a difference between let's let these guys beat you and the stat I heard this morning on Get Up where it said the average distance on the Grant Williams 17 3-pointers was 9 feet. Closest defender.
Great stat by JJ.
That's not letting someone beat you. That's literally saying, hey, NBA player that shoots 42% from 3, hit half of these. Like that's not, and that I put on Coach Bud, but we're not talking about Bucks. I think I'm not gonna leave where I've stood. I've stood with the Celtics throughout this entire playoffs.
All right.
I haven't wavered from that. I think they're the best. I said they were the best team in terms of how they play together, and I think the Heat are probably the second best team in terms of how they play together on the court. So I'm going to roll with the Celtics. I think it's Celtics in 6 because I think if it gets to 7, I can't pick a road team in a game 7 like that. I can't be that obnoxious. So I'm going to say that somehow it ends up being Celtics in 6. And like you said, I have no idea how, but it will be 2-2 for sure.
Since 2005, no teams have been in the East Finals more than the Heat and Celtics. And for top-seeded Miami, it will be a chance to make the NBA Finals for a 6th time in the past 12 years. So it's going to be a very fun series tomorrow, 8:30. Brutal. I mean, I got to work at 8:30. I mean, what am I complaining for?
8:30 on Tuesday.
It's 8:30 starts are rough down there.
I agree.
Regardless,
you're probably not home till like 11:30, 12 at that point.
Oh, I got to stay for post game. So
what do we got? What's up? I lost you.
It says remaining time 9. Upgrades.
Yes.
Kidding me with this?
So I think when you have, I don't even know how it works, but eventually it'll kick you off like 40 minutes maybe. We'll wrap up this in 9. All
right. Let's do it.
It'll stop regardless. It'll just stop it. So
all right, Suns Warriors. Kirks, where do you want to go with this?
Well, first of all, it's not Suns Warriors. It's Mavs
I'm
Warriors.
sorry. What did I have? I wrote down Suns Warriors. Jesus.
Mavs you probably wrote Warriors. It down before game. You probably wrote it down before game 7.
I probably did. What's our thought here?
Well, I've gotten a bunch of Warriors. And I have thumbs down every single one of those messages. You're not blowing out Luka and the Mavs. They play good team defense. And also, did we not just watch the Warriors kind of almost blow that series to the Grizzlies without John Morant?
Yeah.
If it wasn't for a couple really bad shot attempts by Dylan Brooks in the fourth quarter of Game 4, that would have been 2-2 heading back to Memphis. So let's not talk about Memphis though. We'll keep it with the Warriors and the Mavs. In this series, you're gonna have a lot of guys being thrown at Luka. Will the Warriors willingly switch? Will they trap and get him off the ball? I believe that the way to do it, I would personally just get the ball out of his hands and make the other 4 guys beat you. I wouldn't allow him to play in that one-on-one setting with whoever he wants to play with. I think there's certain guys on the team that the Warriors will live with playing him on the outside. Andrew Wiggins, I guess Klay Thompson, even though he moves his feet really slow nowadays.
Yeah.
I just think that you have to get the ball out of Luka's hands. Like the Warriors need to dictate how the game is played. Don't play to the Mavs pace. Let's get out and run. Let's get good shots. And let's not turn the ball over carelessly. In that Memphis series, they almost look like they weren't, I don't want to say they look like they weren't trying, but it looked like they were being very careless with the basketball. A lot of turnovers, sloppy turnovers, a lot of dead ball turnovers that might not cost you in the long run, but still you're losing possessions. And the Mavs were a pretty good offensive rebounding team. I thought so, at least in that Sun series. So again, you're going against a team that offensive rebounds the ball well, as did Memphis. And we saw sometimes they struggle, especially when Steven Adams was playing in the game. So if Dwight Powell is being active and Maxi Kleber's hitting threes, the Mavs are going to be in this series. Cleaves, if they're hitting threes, they're going to be in this series. It just comes down to how well they can shoot. I'll let you talk before we make our picks.
Yeah, let me talk real quick. And I'll be quick about the Mavs.
Look,
I think that for Luka and I think that for the Golden State Warriors, it comes down to this. If Luka is a facilitator, I think that Dallas wins this series. If they can just, like, for me, when you're a superstar like Luka Doncic is, you could put in 35, but if you only have 4 assists, I like the other team to win. What you saw, especially in that series against Phoenix, especially the games at home, when he's able to facilitate to Dorian Finney-Smith, Jalen Brunson, we saw Spencer Dinwiddie, Maxi Kleber, when he is able to get his 35 and then add 10, 11, 12 assists, that's where Dallas is most dangerous. It's almost, I know it's crazy to say this, but you almost rather live with Luka trying to score than him getting in the lane and doing whatever he wants, then kicking out and getting the easy layups, whatever it may be. I think it comes down to whether Luka is going to be a facilitator or a scorer. And if he's a facilitator, I like Dallas to win this series. If he is just strictly a scorer, I like Golden State to win this series.